I'm ready, so I'm going to start. We're going to call our open session to order. Ooh, that's loud. It's 5:35 p.m. Now is the time for public comment for our closed session items only. There's no one here in person to comment on our closed session item, and there's also nothing on email. So with that, we'll go to roll call, please.
Trustee Rodriguez.
Here.
Trustee Edmondson.
Present.
Trustee Jackson Miller.
Present.
Trustee Dickinson will be absent this evening, and Trustee Donnelly is currently not present.
All right. Thank you very much. With that, we'll convene to closed session. Okay, welcome back. We are going to call our open session to order. It's about 6:33 p.m. We are going to move to item 3B, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is the report out of closed session. The board did meet in closed session, and in case number 2023-2403 on a vote of 3-0, the board voted to deny the appeal. Next up is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda with the notation that we have an addition of some documents?
So I move but I just want to ask before we do this, are you sure you're not going to need those CDs?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we're gonna find a way to survive with that.
okay.
Great. And just to clarify, we're discussing some of the, oh gosh, what is the right word for the items that we no longer need? Thank you, the surplus, obsolete and surplus, and yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we agree. We don't need those CDs, not like certificate of deposit. Those are good.
Yeah.
but compact.
There was a time those things were gold though. If you had a
Oh,
stack
I
of
know,
blank
I know.
CDs.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to public communications. The board can receive public communications by email prior to the meeting, email during the meeting on agenda items, and we do check emails as we're going through the agenda or in person. Have we received any emails at this point?
No.
Okay, thank you. And public communications for in-person public communications and email are for things that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to make any public communications? Okay, no one to speak in person. And just noting again, we do have a student who's coming for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we know there's been a lot of traffic. Normally we begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Hello and welcome. I was just doing just letting everyone know, because sometimes we have like 2s and 3s and 5s of viewers on YouTube and a big crowd here, but just letting everyone know that we know there's a lot going on out there in the world right now, so we wanted to give you some time to come in and get settled and lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance when you're ready.
Oh, yeah.
Is this that's okay? Do you need a moment? Because we can talk a little bit if you need a moment.
Okay, you can continue.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah, of course. So we'll start with our standing reports. I believe that's where we are. So first would be items from the assistant superintendents. Do we have anything from the assistant superintendents to report on?
Yeah, I can just cover all three if you'd
Okay.
like me to make it
Yeah,
simple.
sure.
So, my colleagues from business and ed services aren't able to make it tonight. So I'll just do a very quick update on their behalf. On the business side of the house, the entire staff and business services is working very hard on year-end closing. And so they've been coming together and getting all the support they need on that. So that's been the main focus in business. And in ed services, obviously, a lot of focus areas to start the year, but the item I wanted to share tonight is just that we're in a transition phase, and it is very bittersweet to just remind everybody that administrative assistant Jackie Gomez is no longer in that position, but she has moved on to pursue her career and what she studied in college to go into her chosen profession, and she's out in greener pastures, I guess we could say. So she'll be missed. We wish her well. And then everything that I have to share is kind of tied into that opening week report, so I'll save it for that.
Okay, excellent. We have a couple of options. We can keep going with the standing reports, but if our student's ready to lead us off with the Pledge of Allegiance, we're ready for you. Yeah, of course, of course.
Would everyone please stand?
You bet.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Would like to also read our mission statement?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
If you don't mind the mission statement.
Yep.
Mhm.
That one. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for a lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Val, if you don't mind hanging out with us. Yeah, I mean, if you're uncomfortable standing there, I won't make you, but we love being able to see you, and then you got the mic in front of you. Principal Hadris, if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to, but I have a certificate that's got a lot of great
Sure.
information. I'm happy to read.
I would like to say, Val, as one of our student leaders and now an 8th grade student, I mean, when Jen sent the email, who should we pick? I mean, we both were like, no, Harry. He is not only just a wonderful, kind person who embodies the New Brighton way of being respectful, kind, and responsible and safe. He's also just so talented, and he's the type of student that we're going to watch good, in his future do wonderful and great things. He was our star lead drummer for our band since 6th grade.
That's great.
And
Yeah, the
so
people
he's
work.
just can't say enough positive things about Val. And so I'm just so happy that you all get to meet him and he gets to represent our school tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
You're welcome, Val.
All right, Val, I have a certificate for you. Is it okay if I read it out loud so we can hear even more awesome things about you?
Yeah,
Is that
that'd be
okay?
great.
All right, cool. The SoCal Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees Certificate of Recognition for our Student Pledge of Allegiance leader and mission statement reader, Val Perry, 8th grade student at New Brighton. Val is 13 years old and in 8th grade. His hobbies are surfing. Okay, prepare yourself for a lot of hobbies.
Yeah.
His hobbies are surfing, skating, fishing, wrestling, and being in the ocean. While in school, Val likes to incorporate himself in as many school sports as he can, including cross country, wrestling, and volleyball. While out of school, he participates in clubs for volleyball and wrestling. He participated in a national tournament for volleyball in Los Angeles and placed 3rd in the finals. Along with his sports achievements, Val's academic achievements are maintaining a 4.0 and above grade point average every quarter, and always making sure he's on NBMS honor roll. Val believes that school is important because it's the gateway to success later on in life and can help with anything from getting a job to making successful decisions about reaching your lifelong goals. When he grows up, Val would like to become a vintner. He thinks that this career would suit him because it is outdoors, creative, skill-based, and it makes a lot of money. Excellent. All right. Well, Val, thank you again for being here. Big round of applause, Val.
Thank you.
If you'd like to come on up and receive your certificate, are you handshake, elbow bump, what's cool? There's that good. Yeah, thank you for being with us. And then we have like a little goodie bag for kids of all ages.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, help yourself. And if you have any siblings at home who might like something, just a little something for you and for your family for having you here.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And then if it's comfortable for you, sometimes board members like to ask questions too. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that would be great. And then we're also going to ask you for a picture. So this is
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Any questions for Val?
So a vintner, that's grapes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
a winemaker.
Right.
winemaker.
Yeah.
Have you ever you tried garden or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love gardening.
Wow.
It's one of my hobbies.
Oh, yeah. And of all the hobbies, like after a hard day of school, what's your go-to
Go to.
to kind of
Just Getting in the water.
relax?
Mm.
That's what I did today.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got in the water.
Yeah.
So, have you grafted when you're in your gardening?
No, but my grandpa does.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
he's
so you,
really into it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And in volleyball, setter, spiker?
middle.
Oh,
Middle front,
you like
yeah.
that? You
Yeah.
like digging it out, huh?
Yeah,
All right, the bump guy,
yeah.
all right.
Well, one of my middle child was about to head off to college and registered for classes. So college starts for her next month. And one of her classes that she was able to get as a freshman is intro to winemaking. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yes. So it's the opportunities are definitely out there, and we certainly live in the region for it. But
Yeah.
it is very cool to hear about all of your interests and skills and hobbies. And then, of course, your academic achievement is wonderful and commendable, and you're on the right path. So we really thank you for taking the time to be with us. Let us get to know you. Do you have any questions for us? Normally there are 5 of us. We have a couple who are out today, but if there's anything that we can answer about being on the school board or anything that you'd like us to know, we're here for you.
I think I'm all right. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. Well, if we don't have any other questions from the
So
board.
saltwater, freshwater fishing,
Saltwater, man.
okay,
Yeah,
the big ones, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Did you used to surf, did you used to fish from the wharf? in
Yeah, I
Capitola?
did actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to be on the fishing club.
Oh,
Uh,
it'll be rebuilt.
yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll ask you a question for Ted. So
Yeah.
when you're out on the water, what do you like to do?
Boogie board, surf, skimboard,
Okay.
anything.
Oh, gotcha.
Swim.
Mm,
Yeah.
You're wet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
nice. All right. Well,
Let's get that
yeah,
picture.
thanks again for being with
Yeah.
us. If it's okay with you, we usually take a picture with you
Yeah.
and your certificate
Great.
and your New Brighton team. If you guys
Yep.
want to come over and join us.
Yeah, sure.
Face that
Right in
way.
that corner, yeah.
Right here. If you want us to be behind or in front, what would you prefer? Okay, whatever's all right. Here we go.
It's like a big. No injuries.
Everyone's struggling. You ready? Perfect.
All right.
Nice. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or?
I think that's it.
That's
Thank you
it.
for being
We-
here.
Thank you, yeah.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Well, we took things a little out of order, but that is always the big joy is getting to start our meetings off by hearing from our students and the reminder of our pledge and mission statement. I think we were going back to item 6B, items from CSEA. I see a CSEA member here, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
are you here
Hi,
to do are you here to do a
Yes.
report? Awesome. We have a spot at the table for you if you'd like it, wherever you're comfortable. We're a small crowd.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, board members and superintendents. My name is Albert Ruffman. I'm currently working at Santa Cruz Gardens Elementary School as a daytime custodian. Been there for about 7 years with the district. And I'm also a 83 alumni at Santa Cruz Gardens,
Nice.
is where I graduated. And this is coming from Mr. Enrique Domo and Lynn Nicole and myself, of course. Mr. Turnbull, we look forward in negotiating with you next month, and we appreciate you taking the time to keep us updated with the COVID-19 protocols. Also, we thank you for the first time ever taking a district picture. Let's keep it a tradition, keep it
Absolutely.
rolling.
Let's do it.
And thank you for the support, and we hope to continue to have a great year together.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Albert.
much.
Yeah.
Than's for being here.
Like your shirt.
Yeah, go Giants.
Well,
I have to rub it into Mr. Domo, right?
I didn't know you went to Santa Cruz Gardens. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Were you the
Excellent.
Gophers back then?
You know what? Fifth grade was kind of a blur.
Yeah.
It was actually the year, it was the year that I was gonna go sixth grade at New Brighton or at Santa Cruz Gardens, but then they
Mm,
changed
The big
the
change.
map, so I ended up
Okay.
mhm.
coming to New Brighton for
Okay,
Oh,
sixth,
interesting.
seventh, and eighth.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
it's a big part of our history.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right. Next up would be items from SEA. We don't have anyone present. I don't know if they sent in.
I do have a little statement. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
And it says, and this is from President DR Martin. Hello, unfortunately, the designated SEA representative for tonight's board meeting has tested positive for COVID
Yeah.
and is in isolation, and a replacement was not available. We would just like to remind everyone in the meantime that COVID is on the uptick again, and we hope everyone and their families stay safe. Thanks.
Good timely reminder.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next up will be items from trustees. Anyone particular want to start?
well, I want to talk about the welcome back, but let's wait till the item.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Anything?
Yeah, just attended the welcome back breakfast and it was just great to see everybody. Oh, need some new staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same. So thank you. And we'll definitely go more in depth on that
Mhm.
on our agenda item. Okay, next up is our first presentation item. We've got item 7A, discussion regarding updates on the LCAP.
All right, so I'm going to present that item tonight. And I will just say that a focus, not just over the summer, has been to improve everything that we do around literacy, especially early literacy, where so much, is the foundation of helping students become better and better at readers, so that as they move up through the grades and they're expected to be able to read to learn, that they have those skills. And so we've talked a lot about it on the board. Not too many months ago, we had a great presentation about, I call it trying not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and embracing what we've done in the early years with the workshop model of learning to read, but also tightening some of the practices up so that students, who learn better through what you might call a phonics-based approach, or a little bit more straightforward approach, we meet the needs of those learners as well. And so rather than doing this pendulum swing that you often hear about with language arts instruction, our staff is really trying to find the balance. And so that was a focus this summer. Part of the focus was making sure that all of our primary teachers have this book, UFly Foundations, and it's an explicit and systemic phonics program. And so through a lot of research and through a lot of vetting of because a lot of materials out there, and of course you don't want to do the spray and pray. You want to pick a resource that you feel like you can be committed to. And so this is a resource that all of our teachers have now. And over the summer, at the beginning of August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we had a training with an outside early literacy trainer, Lizzie Hetzer. And I believe that we had about 15 teachers on their own time during the summer attend this via Zoom. And it wasn't just on this was a piece of it, but it was really around early literacy and the science of reading instruction. And so I think that tells you a lot. We, not being a very big district, 15 primary teachers is a good, majority of our primary teachers from across the district. And I should also say that Soquel Elementary last school year also consulted with this trainer, Lizzie, at their own school. And so the other two schools heard what a quality program this was and what a quality trainer she was, and asked for more training. So it's nice when that collaboration between site and district is not just one way. Soquel really identified this trainer. She turned out to be great. And so we're providing her to the rest of the district. So on this 3-day training, they went over kind of the big picture of science, the science of reading instruction. Day 2, they went over student growth trajectories in developing independent readers. And day 3 really focused on comprehension. And of course, it was much more detailed than that. That was the big picture. So between identifying and focusing on a resource like UFly, having teachers come voluntarily to a training in summer, you can tell the commitment to finding that balance. And I'm just really proud of, everybody in the system for not getting caught up in what's sometimes referred to as the reading wars, right? This doesn't have to be put into that, black or white context. This is about constantly improving. And some students really do learn more with that more holistic approach. Some really need that, a little more straight ahead phonics approach. And all students can benefit from, best practices in both. And so we're going to continue to improve. And this was a great summer and a great area to focus on for tonight's LCAP bite.
All right. And then just to clarify, our main reading is the
Workshop.
writers and readers workshop.
Yes.
And then so this is like supplemental.
I guess
adding
you'd call
the-
it supplement would be,
the phonics
supplement's a fine word. It's,
element to it.
another tool in the tool belt. To make sure that, students that need that little more direct approach get that.
So I have a question of the attendees that went for the summer.
Yeah,
Is there gonna be like some kind of like a spread of that knowledge amongst the rest of the
yeah, I'm
staff?
looking through the list and there's short answer, yes. But you know,
Okay.
sometimes when you talk about the spread, you talk about a trainers, maybe where there's a couple people who got it and they gotta go train, 40 or 50 other people.
Yeah,
This is really just catching up the few people whose schedule didn't allow them to attend. So
gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll make sure that they get the information and everybody has the book and it'll be an ongoing focus of our professional development this year.
So, you're right. There's a lot of conversation going on out there about, how to teach this or that. I mean, and you appreciate that there is a conversation going on,
Mhm.
but at some point in time, for us, it's like, okay, so today, what is it?
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that, you put like a milestone or a mark
Mhm.
of this is where we're at right now.
Mhm.
And all that other stuff, is yes, it's happening.
Yeah.
And one day it'll trickle down.
And so is it all K through 5
Uh,
now have access to that?
no, this was for K through 2.
Oh, K through 2 at all the schools?
Actually, it might have been just K1. I'm looking at my list here. Primary. I think it was K through 2. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, because really it's the foundations of early literacy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't have a question, just the comment that it's a really, like you said, speaks a lot for our staff for so many people to be able to take the time and attend that over the summer and then share the information with colleagues who weren't able to attend. And certainly we all know how much work goes into teaching and how it's it probably feels like things might be continuously changing in terms of some materials and directions, but having that fluidity and flexibility is what's going to help us meet all of our learners. So just a lot of appreciation for all the folks taking all the time to learn the new materials and use the new materials that we have and work with all of the strategies because it's been a big conversation for a really, really long time. And obviously we all want to teach the kids that early literacy the best possible way. So
I mean, that whole reading levels thing was not good, not okay. And so you just never know,
Yeah. Well, points well taken. And that's always good to hear the little bits of the LCAP, but again, like getting the chance to go into detail on a specific item helps bring it all together. And here we are now in August, taking our bites for the
First little
LCAP
bite.
that will be exactly. So thank you for covering for Dr. Glantz.
Of course.
Any other questions?
No, but I think at some point in time when we do the LCAP bites, we're going to have to address the staffing situation. I mean, we're okay this year, but as our enrollment drops, it's harder to keep, all the skills and abilities that we have in a district. And so how do we do that?
Mhm.
So I don't know.
Yes. All right. Anything else from the folks who are here? Okay. Any questions or comments from our folks here in the audience on this issue? This question? Okay.
Nothing on email.
And we don't have anything on email. Okay. Thank you for that. And then really tag you're it on
There
everything.
we go.
But
Yeah.
the next one is our report on opening day, including enrollment.
So we'll get into the numbers, but I really want to start with the positives. Positives were that every year there's so much work that goes into getting the facilities ready and teachers getting their classrooms ready and administrators getting set up to welcome their staff and build that positive culture in each site. So in that respect, this year was no different, but I definitely felt even more energy in that preparation this year and just wanting to go the extra mile and do things that not just addressed the nuts and bolts, but a lot of team building. And so I was really impressed with that across all of our school sites and at the district level. And that all added up to a very good start of the school year. As has become our tradition, we had district office staff members out at every school site. I was able to go to Soquel Elementary where it was so dialed in. Principal Eric Witter and Office Manager Diana Damer just had everything running like clockwork. They assigned me to parking lot duty. Often is not the most desirable duty at a school site, but I will tell you, it ran smooth. There was no congestion. And parents were very polite in the parking lot. And when you can say that, that is a big deal to say if you've ever done parking lot duty at a school. And all the reports I got from the other schools were just the same. And then at New Brighton, in the middle of the day, we had a challenge. As you know, well, a voicemail was left with a bomb threat. And the school administration responded to that with so much competency. Immediately letting me know at the district office, immediately going into mode to be able to call for an evacuation, executing that evacuation. First day of school, where teachers maybe don't even know all their students' names. And so all of the staff rose to that challenge. I know I said it before, I even said it on a couple of news clips, but I am just so thankful for the students. In that kind of situation, you have everything to deal with, and you can kind of be trying to deal with those things while trying to deal with student behavior, like working against you, or they can be working with you. And I can tell you genuinely, they were working with us. Like we did not spend time on student behavior, like at the reunification site or anything. I mean, there was a lot of people, and might have been a little loud a few times, but that's just the nature of having that many people in one place. So I just really want to thank the students. Like it starts with that. And then the staff, again, first day, not even necessarily knowing all their students, just had such a command of being able to get their students in the right place and be cooperative. And find a role once we got to the reunification site. Some people's role were to monitor students, and some people jumped in and helped with the checkout process. But everybody had a very low ego and a very big helping pair of hands and helping heart. And so just in doing it, since this is a first day report and it happened on the first day, I'll just go into that matter just a little bit more. So what I like to say is all of the big stuff, like, can we get kids evacuated? Can we get to a reunification site? Can we avoid all the horrors that sometimes you hear about the reunification sites and those being chaotic? Can we get kids home safely and be able to debrief and get ready for another day? And all of that big stuff, the answer is absolutely yes. And then you start digging, and it's like, what are some of the little things we can learn to do better next time? And they immediately debriefed that evening, as administrative staff at New Brighton, and then we debriefed as a district office. And there are lots of little things that we can do better. And so one of the things is like, let's everybody get back in the habit of wearing our ID badge. I'm just using that as one example because it's tangible, because we're all out interacting with law enforcement and fire, and just assuming everybody knows who I am,
Right.
and that was true of all of us, so little things like that are, you don't want something like this to have to be the reminder for you, but sometimes you need that extra little kick in the pants of reality. And so some things like that, here at the district level, having a little bit better distribution. We have a really well-defined and regularly used administrative council text chain. And so that allowed us to make sure that all the administrators, including at other sites, because how word travels so fast.
Right.
So we were able to do that. It wasn't quite as efficient here as getting everybody at the district office, especially since we're adjacent to the school that it was happening at. So that's an improvement we're going to make. One thing that we've been reflecting on is the good fortune of being able to learn from the unfortunate event from Santa Cruz High last year, the hoax that happened. And as I had reported then, city school staff was so gracious in sharing their lessons learned. And I'll just give you one example. They had said that when law enforcement needed to sweep the entire campus, they didn't have like a fair number of master keys available, and it was kind of like a sharing and everything. So we learned from that. We listened, and we got enough master keys, you know, in our crisis response box to avoid that. And we zip tied them up so they're all in one place, and the staff grabbed the crisis response box and brought it out. So all these great lessons learned, and then but it took a minute to get the zip tie undone because we didn't have a pair of scissors in the crisis response box. And I like to use that example because it's almost like unless you go through this, like that would have been really hard to get your brain to go there and learn that lesson. Believe us, there's a pair of scissors in that box now, right? Fortunately, somebody from law enforcement, you know, had a knife and was able to cut it open. But so those kind of you know, smaller lessons learned, we're going to continue to you know, peel away at, document, and share with the rest of the staff. It's kind of good timing at this next ADCO meeting coming up on Tuesday of next week. We're having the county office staff and law enforcement staff come out to do a presentation to our administrators on the new active shooter response. That is a county-wide initiative. I mentioned it at the kickoff breakfast. And so we're one of the first ones right out of the chute. And so we, you know, kind of continue this momentum on safety, lessons learned from this most recent event, and also getting ready to implement some of these new protocols. So I also just have to say, and again, I know I've said this in writing and other venues, but you know, the response from our local law enforcement and fire was commendable. There was some good fortune. From my understanding, Capitola PD had a training that day and had about 10 extra officers on hand. So that didn't hurt. So I always, maybe everything balances out. Not so good fortune to have it on the first day of school. I mean, it's never a good time for it, don't get me wrong, but first day of school, wow, so many moving pieces, right? But good fortune that there were extra officers on hand. But regardless of the number of officers they have, they stopped everything and put this as a priority. And you know, just all the agencies working together. You know, I guess what sometimes can get in the way is ego, and there was just never that kind of approach. Everybody was just there trying to do what they could. Up to the community, Callie was there, so we had a board member, Yvette Brooks from Capitola City Council was there and pitching in and helping. And so, you know, sometimes that thing about it takes a community, seems trite, but it wasn't. That was a real life example of it. And then I've mentioned students, I mentioned staff. Parents too. Oftentimes you hear about reunifications gone awry because of maybe parents not wanting to follow protocol. Understandable. Any of us that are parents, like if there's a mama bear, you know, a tendency, you know, it comes out when your child might be in danger or in that kind of situation. So it's understandable, but everybody really understood that the protocols had to be in place so that we could be accountable for every child. Another little lesson we learned from the Santa Cruz High incident was to have permanent markers in the crisis response box so that when a student was identified as free to go, because we communicated with their adult, they were marked, and then we had staff that were checking as they left to see if there was a mark. Little things like that, you know, really went a long ways. So I think all of it is continuous learning, and you know, you file away the lessons learned and try to do better next time. You hope there's not a next time, but continue to do better on our drills. And again, just very thankful for the response of everybody in the community, and including our law enforcement partners who were just commendable. Transitioning into the welcome back breakfast. Thank you for attending. You know, it's I was a teacher, my wife is a teacher, so I always, when I go into that, I always think these people want to get back to their classrooms and work. And yet I got to go up there and, you know, try to say something meaningful for everybody. And so, you know, I was glad that one, it felt like the vibe was good, and people were excited about the new school year. It felt like we focused on the right things. We talk a lot about equity and safety, and the time spent that morning was mostly focused on equity and safety. It's always fun to hear, to introduce the new employees, and it's always fun to hear the stories from those pins. And you know, it's always kind of a little bit of a running joke of who's going to keep it to their 2 or 3 minutes. We had a lot of awardees this year, and so sometimes, some years I give 3 minutes, some years when there's a lot of people I ask for 2, and people were really good and they get creative with their partnerships and always something new. So that's always kind of a highlight when you have 150 years of service to
Mhm.
honor. And they get to do that. I love that tradition in this district. And that's the good stuff. Enrollment. There's good news and bad news. The good news is our projections have been good. And if you remember, we discussed at the end of last year, going into summer, we reduced one full-time equivalency certificated staff at every site, expecting our enrollment trend to continue downward. And so if you can put anything in a positive context, it's that those projections were on point. But of course, the downside of that is you look at the graph that has been had that out of character little uptick in 2019-20, which is kind of a recent high point, but has been going down pretty steadily since then. I can just say, based on the enrollment numbers that we're monitoring in the student information system and the warm body count, hand count that principals engage in, that our numbers are lower today than they were 1 year ago. And while there is historically an uptick between now and the first Wednesday in October. The first Wednesday in October is important because it's like a census day. It's where we that's the day that our numbers count for the California Department of Education. And so there's typically an uptick between now and then, but not enough of an uptick historically that we can think that we're going to get back even to where we were in 22-23. In fact, with a big credit to office managers and most recently at New Brighton, who really went through their list of no-shows. I would say that my numbers that I presented in page 2 in red that were kind of a projection on where we are now and what historically, how much we usually go, those may even be a little overly optimistic. There's no crystal ball, but I'm thinking that we'll be more in the 1,600 range versus 1,620, just based on the number of no-shows that were followed up on and aren't coming. You kind of usually there's a percent, and there were some that, oh yeah, we're for a variety of reasons, yes, we'll be there. We were out of town, et cetera, but usually there's a little bit more of those than no, we've moved out of state or we've enrolled at another school. Most of the no-shows are not going to be enrolled with us. So my original numbers from last week were probably a little bit high actually. So, but without trying to get to a precise number, I will just say that our declining enrollment trend is going to continue. I wish I didn't have to report that. And then as my friend Albert alluded to earlier, I ended our memo with the district-wide picture, which is it's nice to see team SUESD in one place, all the people that serve our families right there. So I will take any questions about anything about getting ready for the beginning of the year or executing the beginning of the year, or where our enrollment data is, how that's looking.
So Scott, were you the incident commander until the PD arrived?
That's a really good question. And so they were, law enforcement and fire were really great about differentiating incident command and reunification. That seems like a simple thing,
Right.
but until you execute it,
Right.
and it makes so much sense because and I'm glad you asked that, because even though I've done it in other settings, it's really important to acknowledge part of the community response was from the 2 local churches here, from St. Joseph's and Shoreline, both staffs, and there were 2 people at each who kind of constituted the staff when we went to each location. Couldn't have been more helpful. It's like, our doors are open, here's where the restroom is, here's some tables if you need them, what else can we do to help? Like, just having those kind of community partners is such a blessing. But so at the incident command, which was St. Joseph's, Principal Christina served there,
Mhm.
knowing the
Right.
lay of the land at the school more. And so I went down to help lead the efforts with reunification.
Okay,
So, and, all of they talked about this a lot at the Incident Command Academy that Chris and I attended last year. And there's this combination of, like, you make these plans, and there's always these flow charts of incident command and facilities and resources, and everybody has a box. And I remember Officer Dan Flippo, who led that, he'd say, you have to have those are important. Nothing I'm gonna say is gonna minimize those. When it really happens, you're gonna think of who are like 5 people that you can really rely on.
Yeah.
And right, like you don't have time to go look at the chart or pull out the plan or go through the file, right? And so that is really what it boiled down to. So having Christina here at Incident Command, which is kind of like sacred, like there's not people coming in and out, because that's
Right.
where law enforcement is working and getting their information and issuing next steps. That worked well with Christina there. And then having reunification at a separate location was really important. And then being able to rely on everybody, for example, Steve Cartwright helped make sure that we could, and Enrique too, our CSEA president, that we could get food and water to the reunification center to make sure people that needed that could be refreshed. Carissa Lemos was instrumental in helping craft all the communication. And so everybody kind of accentuated what they were good at, in that very condensed time frame. But to answer your question, Christina was incident command here.
so did we get our new radios in play yet?
Is that the satellite ones?
Yeah, the ones at every site,
Not yet,
okay.
but they actually have been working on them out here.
Okay.
So the ones you're referring to are
Right,
the
right.
ones if all the other communication lines go down, this will
Right.
be one that at least we have one radio between the
Mhm.
district office and every site. Satellite based, not dependent on
Yeah.
lines that may go down.
Yeah, so just for this reason, right?
Yeah.
So I applaud your disaster recovery.
We have a great team.
Yeah, well, and it takes a whole team to do it. I mean, there's no one person can do it.
That's right.
And just a commendation to the teachers. That was day one,
Yeah.
with their full classes, and they didn't know the names of their students yet,
Yeah.
and yet we're, shepherding them to safety. So,
So calmly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
just
that exudes,
really-
everybody picks up on that vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then I talked to the SDC department at New Brighton, and that's even a more sensitive job,
Mhm.
because those students, they're new to the school, new to the procedures, and wow, they did such a great job. Really impressed with the STC.
And when, the leadership and staff are confident in what they're doing, people see that and they relatively calm because, well, they look like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that started with Christina. She had a sense of urgency without being unnerved.
So this is too far off track, but in the Olympics, when you're doing the diving, there's a degree of difficulty. So I will award you a high degree of difficulty for your opening day.
No
Yeah.
doubt, no doubt.
Absolutely. You have questions or
E-
comments about that topic?
On this item, sure, I mean.
I lumped a lot in.
Yeah, it's a lot, yeah.
Just about the incident or.
Well, for one, I don't want to repeat things that everyone else has said, but I will just say all of the communication was exceptionally clear and thoughtful. And from my parent perspective, again, having been through this sadly a few times at a few different schools, that clarity and frequency with the communication is incredible. So it's wonderful that we have the systems in place and that we have the skills again to, in the midst of all of it, to be making sure folks know what's going on. So that was, and I hear that from the student perspectives too. Kids understood what was happening, and that's,
That's huge.
again, as a parent of a sixth grader, a third of the kids at the school, if not more, are
Yeah.
are brand new,
Their
very
eyes are already
first
the
day,
same.
Yeah.
don't know the lay of the land, have
Yeah.
only is happening midway through the day. You haven't even been to all of your classrooms
Yeah.
yet. So again, having that calm and clear direction and clear communication is it's terrible that it had to happen, and it didn't have to happen. It's terrible that it happened.
Yeah.
But and it's great that there are lessons learned, but it's incredible how well it all went. And yes, just hats off to everyone that you've already mentioned. I have some questions on the enrollment piece too, and of course, lots of things all covered in opening day. Oh, and I also, again, want to, probably on behalf of all of us, just express like sincere, huge gratitude for the welcome back breakfast. It was very, very well done. It was wonderful, like you said, wonderful to see everyone there in person. It was in person, and yeah, boy, there's nothing like this hearing the team members describe their colleagues who are getting their pins and the stories and the creativity. Again, that was absolutely wonderful, and how wonderful for newer members of the team to hear that as well. But your message to everyone, Nicole's message to everyone, I think was very well received and really set the nice tone. So thank you for that. As far as enrollment, I'm just curious, I know you're a part of the group of superintendents countywide. Is this something you guys have already talked about in terms of your opening day numbers, or is that something that's coming up? I'm just curious again, whether we're just still right there in line with the trends throughout the county.
Yeah, no, we've definitely chatted about it, and nothing official, that I feel like comfortable sharing, because I don't want to speak out of turn, because things can change in a couple days with numbers and stuff, but some people are, in different places. Some were like a little pleasantly surprised that their numbers didn't decline as much. Others, like us, got the decline they expected. And so yeah, we have chatted about it informally, and are all trying to put our heads together to identify a best response to it, because it really is a county-wide. If you look at not 40 anymore, but under 40,000 students, we're a pretty small county. There are districts that are bigger than that, and so it kind of affords us that ability to look at things kind of county-wide, and it's a county-wide challenge.
I think that's it for me.
I was wondering just about TK.
Mhm.
Tell us about the TK program, or how does that fit into the
Yeah,
numbers?
great question. There's 53. Today we have 53 TK students in the district. Yeah, which is good. It's interesting in that we were talking about this 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. He said, we're going to add TK as a whole at a grade level, like it's not just this kind of, slice of kindergarten. Like we're going to add it as a whole nother grade level, which we've treated it this year essentially as, the official deadline for the state is April 1st, but we just said, if you're born in April or May, and you're going to be 4, then we're going to take all of those students this year. So we're essentially, it's another grade level. So it's interesting to think about if we'd have said that. Like one of our grade levels usually is in the 150 student range. It kind of grows a little bit, and at New Brighton it'll often get up to 200. And last year's 8th grade class was 240 students, but around somewhere in the 150 to 180 range is like a typical grade level for us going up through. And so you might have thought, well, that's going to be like another 150 students if it's a whole other grade level. But it hasn't turned out that way. And basically just on the historicals we had and everything, we expected somewhere in the vicinity to have 3 TK classes, 1 at each school, and staffed accordingly. And 53 is a great number for 3 classes in TK. It keeps the numbers, full enough so that we can warrant having the program in 1 class at each school, but not. SoCal is the highest, and if they're still were the last time I checked, they're at 19. And so the numbers are good, the projections are good. If you took a step back and thought about where this might have gotten us, I think we would have thought there would have been more, but a lot of things have happened since, 4 or 5 years ago when we might have thought about things differently. So it's great. It's great for instruction. The program is working the way it's supposed to work. Small class, 2 adults, getting students an early on ramp into kindergarten, all of that part, super. Wish there were a few more of them out there.
And DLI, how's that, the program number?
Really well. We build those classes a little heavier than we do our other classes, so that as they go through the grades, kind of is built in for attrition. And so if I remember right, I think we did 25, 20 right in that neighborhood of for this year's kindergarten group. And they have Miss Oliva there in her second year of running the program in kindergarten. And then last year's kindergartens have matriculated to first grade, and we have Miriam Reese, who came over from Main Street School to teach our first grade DLI class. Both classes have their instructional aid. And so the numbers are great in both of those classes, fully staffed. We've gotten them more and more bilingual materials. And so it's just getting stronger every year.
Oh, that's great.
So I want to thank you for your presentation. So I've been to a couple of these now. Very polished. You're getting pretty good at this,
Thanks.
And I like your message. So the Maslow before Bloom, and
And let's be
curious,
curious, not
not
judgmental.
there you go.
Who can argue with Ted
I know.
Lasso, right?
So I like that you repeated it a few times, and maybe we should keep doing
Yeah,
that
thank you
during the
for
course of the meeting.
doing that tonight.
And then the other thing the last thing I want to do is I kind of would love to have been a fly on the wall when somebody decided to evacuate. Because I was sitting in my place going well, are they gonna or not?
Yeah.
And then I got the message, I go, okay.
It was quick. And it was you don't call a meeting and let's talk about this for a half hour, right? Like it was get in the room.
Oh, no.
And I would just say it was a question like, is there any reason not to evacuate? And, there were like 4 or 5 of us. So no, let's get them out there.
Yep,
And
okay.
then
That's a
school
good way of putting it.
Yeah, school administration went into it, no hesitation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, I'm gonna at least end my comments with some optimism about TK numbers in the future. I'm
Mhm.
so glad we have the program. It's so important for the kids who are able to take part in it. And I'm optimistic that as people get used to TK as being a grade level and being, a great viable option, and they hear from their friends and neighbors about how wonderful it is, that it will continue to grow. I think there is some heavy competition from private preschools who work really hard to retain their students and offer them, a bonus year or pre-K or whatever. And that's, and that's understandable. And people like to stay where they're feeling comfortable and they have connections and all of that. But I'm optimistic because TK is just such an incredible resource for kids.
Good
So
point.
I'm gonna hold that
Yes.
optimism that
Nothing wrong with
that-
a little healthy competition, but I welcome anybody to come, and we have amazing TK teachers at every site. Have them come on in, check it out. They will feel comfortable having their children in those rooms.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions from you guys? Okay, thank you for
Yes.
thank you for the report on it.
Absolutely.
Wild opening day.
Yes.
We don't have anyone else left here with us here in public in person, but if
Nothing
you don't
on
mind
email.
checking, nothing on email. Okay. Well, thank you for that. We've just got a couple of action items. Next up is to consider approval of the 22-23 board governance. Well, 23-24, pardon me.
I was gonna say, was that me?
No, that's okay.
So I always like to say that this is a tool I inherited. So thank you to the members on the board that were here when you instituted this. I think it's a very meaningful tool. It allows us to kind of have our schedule for the year of the big stuff. And then, of course, other items, get onto board agendas as we go. So really kind of has that tight, loose approach. We're tight on making sure we hit all of these items when we say we will, or if we need to move them, we acknowledge that, but gives us the flexibility to add other items as we go. The board governance calendar has been vetted year after year after year. So I think that it makes sense that there's, there's not that many changes. Because it's gained the traction. But we did have a few items that we just wanted to move, and a couple of items that we wanted to add. So the draft that you're looking at is the same as last year's, except that we added instructional teams update in August. So these are teams that are working in curricular areas, and we want the board to know what their work is because it's so important. We moved summer school report from October to September. Makes sense because summer is already done. And then we added a couple items. We added the CAS and LPAC data to September. And so that's statewide testing. And then we added curriculum updates to October. Other than that, it's the same as it was last year.
So I saw that 45-day budget thing. We don't have any of that to do.
Good question. No, we
Good.
don't. We've been working closely with the COE. And I've probably asked that question 3 or 4 times because I wanted to be sure, but they've been very patient in answering it 3 or 4 times. In that, from how we've spent from, from our last budget, there haven't been any material changes,
Right.
and therefore a 45-day revision is not necessary.
Okay, because the state pretty much did what they said they were going to do.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Go figure.
I don't have any questions or comments. I'm fine with the additions. I so appreciate the governance calendar, and I think we got the idea at a CSBA conference, I don't know, at some point 8 years ago, something like that maybe. And
It was during my first time on the board.
oh, well, then maybe we just revamped it when I was somewhat new on the board, because I think we did I know you've contributed a significant amount to add more
Tighten it up,
clarity and
yep,
tighten it
yep,
up,
yep.
absolutely, but certainly, especially when, as board president, when you're helping set the agendas, it's an incredibly helpful tool to make sure that, and obviously you're looking at it just as closely.
It's
but
helpful to us just
yeah,
to make sure we don't
yeah.
miss any big items.
Yeah,
And I don't know, there's very many districts that do this and put it on their webpage.
right. It's available for the public. It's a nice blueprint, when someone doesn't really know what it is we do, here's a good snapshot, at least. Nice summary. Any questions, comments from you? Okay. Well, I think we've had our opportunity there. Again, no one here in public to ask any questions. I doubt there's an email, but it's worth
Nothing on
it. Of
email.
course, thank you for checking. Do I have a motion to approve the 23-24 board governance calendar?
I'll move.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Great. And of course, acknowledging this, like so many things, it's a fluid document. And if any of our colleagues who couldn't attend tonight have something they need to address,
Absolutely.
it's we can do that.
Yep.
All right. And then our last action item is to consider nominating CSBA directors at large for African American, American Indian, and county.
Yes, and for your information, the current director at large African American is Chris Clark from Folsom Cordova Unified School District. And the director at large for American Indian is Christina Cameron Aleka, and she is from Needles. If I mispronounced that name, I apologize. I do not know if either or both are seeking re-election. I have not been able to
Yeah,
find that out.
and no one's asked me to, nominate anyone.
Okay.
So Betty, who was our Black, is vice president now,
Mhm.
and so going to be president.
Yeah.
Be interesting. So I'm out of the loop, so.
And I haven't heard from Roger
Right.
Snyder, who from Scotts Valley School District, who's one of our CSBA delegates, and I didn't have an opportunity to specifically reach out to him to ask him that question. So I personally don't have a nomination because I haven't heard anything, and it's okay to not have a nomination.
Yeah.
If anyone
And
does have a nomination, we can do it.
I'm kind of surprised somebody didn't put out something something, you know, to at least that they're running.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess everyone who does have an opinion or nomination throws it in the ring and then we get to vote, right? So.
Yep.
You guys have any nominations or wanna?
Nope.
No? All right, then, well, then, do we wanna make a motion to abstain from making a nomination? Would that sound about right?
That sounds
I'm making
right.
that up. I'll make that motion, then
Well, we could just take no action.
we will take no action. I'm gonna move that we take no action.
Do we, if we don't move, then there's no action. It just dies.
Oh, you okay with letting it die? We don't have a nomination, right? We don't have any, no one is here in person to suggest anything. We don't have any emails on it. So,
It's just like when we.
we rarely, we always take action.
It's just like, no, it's like when we move to adjourn. If we
Yeah.
didn't, we'd have to stay here.
That's
right?
right. Okay, all right then. Then I am comfortable taking no action. All right. Correspondence? Anyone have any correspondence to report? We do not. Future agenda items, we've got a couple on the list that have been previously requested. Anyone have any new agenda items to request at this time?
Nope.
Nope. Do I have a motion to adjourn then?
I do. Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, we are adjourned at 7:34.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
3 weeks between board meetings.